97.1 FM Talk. On demand audio.
4 degrees when I got in my car this morning, about 7 or 8 when I got downtown, according to my dashboard. I drive by the medical examiner's office, and laying there on the, I believe, same grate where the lady died, the 34-year-old died the other day, there were 2 more homeless people. All I could see were the bottoms of their shoes. Sleeping out in this weather this morning. And I noticed our friend Elliot Davis had pointed out this problem several days ago, and I asked him to join us this morning. Elliot, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Mark. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. You know, obviously, you'd think that there might be an extra Metro bus available somewhere they could bring downtown. What was the reaction when you brought this up to City Hall?
Well, first of all, it's just tragic, the death of Jennifer Pendleton, who's in her 30s. Her body was found Tuesday out there by that grate. And as you said, the homeless are still out there, still sleeping by that heating vent. And we had been bringing this issue to the city for a while in terms of the need to have a bus out there, to have someplace they can go, someplace they can know, someplace they can feel comfortable about. I've been calling for like a couple of months for Mayor Tashara Jones and her administration to have the bus. They have refused to do so, saying, as a matter of fact, on Valentine's Day, there was a protest by the homeless. I was at that protest covering it, and the chief of staff came out, basically, and when I asked him the question about the homeless bus, he said, well, it's just a Band-Aid. It is a symbol. And obviously, a lot of people in the homeless community took offense to that, and I grilled him on that. I said, well, look, I was here in 2017 under Mayor Lyda Cruz, and when she first put the bus out there, it's not new. It's been done before, and certainly it's more than a Band-Aid. Well, I think they got a big blowback from the public about that comment, calling it a Band-Aid, because Monday the bus was there. But one of the problems is that the bus is only being used from 5 to 7 in the evening, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. When you have days where it's 9 degrees outside, 5 degrees outside, the bus needs to be there early in the afternoon on through the evening, and that the administration hasn't done. So I just don't think they've done enough to convince the homeless of the availability of all these assets for them to go. I just think they have not been diligent enough. One, putting out the words, making things like that bus available where the homeless can say, well, maybe I don't know where the shelter is, which many of them don't, even though the administration says we have a lot of shelter beds. Well, guess what? A lot of the homeless don't know where the shelter beds are. Many of them can't get there. Some of them walk to a location only to get there and find out that maybe the shelter is full and there's no room at the end. And so that's why these warm-up buses are so essential, but the administration has refused to do it. And I just think that it would make a huge difference for Mayor Tashara Jones and her administration to do more. They have not done it. In my opinion, they've done less than Mayor Cruzen, who started these buses. All they have to do is just use Mayor Cruzen for a blueprint.
You kind of touched on what I was wondering, Elliot, which was, and this might sound heartless, but is it an issue of these people refuse to go to the shelter when there is space, or is it there's simply a lack of beds, or they're turning them down because they're saying you're on drugs or whatever the case may be? Because I do believe as a Christian I'm called to help the needy, but I also want somebody, if there is an open bed and they're offered an opportunity to stay there and they have a way to get there, I want them to take the shelter up on that.
I think there's a total lack of communication between this administration and the homeless. I don't know if the homeless really believe this administration really wants to help them. And I just think that just not enough has been done to communicate. When I went to the protest, I talked to a homeless woman who had slept on that very same vent where Jennifer Pendleton, the homeless woman who died, was found. And we had a conversation as to why he's sleeping in this vent. And she said, well, it's a place to get warm. I don't know where else to go. So people might assume that you and I might say, okay, we've got this long list, or I've got this in my phone where the shelters are located, and I can just instantly call and figure out if they're full or not. But many times the homeless are on the phone, don't have communications, don't know how to reach the places. But there needs to be more of an outreach by the city, one, to let the homeless know, hey, it's okay to come to these shelters. Or if you don't feel like going to a shelter, for example, this woman told me that she went into the library to get warm, but when she closed her eyes and fell asleep, they kicked her out of the library.
Okay.
And so many times people are running into just situations that we can't even imagine. And so what do? Well, next time you won't go to the library. You might go to the vet.
Well, it's a good point. We're talking to Elliot Davis, and he kind of drew this to my attention the other day with one of his posts on Facebook, and I decided just to circle City Hall this morning as I drove downtown. Sure enough, there's people back out there, and it's a small enough number, Elliot, that it doesn't seem like it would be that big of a problem for the city to do more about it. I mean, I agree with Kim. Some of these people have mental health problems. Some won't seek help themselves, but we can extend a little bit of warmth to a human being on a 5-degree morning. What
I tell people is this. Anybody could become homeless at any time, especially if you don't have a safety net. A lot of the women, for example, were in abusive situations. Like, people will often try to criticize them and say, well, they're out there, they're all on drugs. That's not true. I talked to a number of women, many of them out there because they were in abusive situations, getting beaten half to death by some guy, and had them and their children in the house. Finally, they'd had enough, and they got out on the streets. They became homeless. They said, look, it's either getting out on the street and deal with homelessness or stand here and wait for somebody to kill me because I'm being battered and abused. That is what many women actually face. That's how a lot of them ended up being homeless.
Yeah.
Once you get out on the street, just imagine the issues that you're going to run into fighting for your. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. I talked to many women who are fearful. Who are fearful and worried that they're going to wake up the next morning.
Elliot, we're going to let you get the door. I got to go anyway, my friend. I appreciate your time this morning.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon. Elliot Davis there, formerly of Fox 2 News, and, he's still out there drawing attention to these things. Sure seems like more could be done, for sure.
Get more at 971talk.com.